The morning they tried to erase me began with a single blink of red light on my badge reader. A light I had never seen in more than 11 years at Hallstrom Analytics. I pressed the card again, slower this time, as if gentleness might change the truth. The reader flashed red once more. Behind the desk, the security guard, Marcus, shifted awkwardly. He knew me, everyone knew me, but he kept his gaze on the floor. That was the moment I realized something had been decided without me. My phone vibrated before I could say a word. Althea, Clayton Reeves said, his voice smooth and warm in the way people sound when they have already practiced a speech. I forgot to tell you, but it is not too late. You are fired. There was no pause, no breath, not even a fake apology. The line went dead. For a moment, I simply stood there, badge in hand, feeling the weight of an old fear I thought I had buried years ago. It rose fast, sharp, familiar. I swallowed it down and walked away from the entrance without speaking to anyone. I did not need a meeting. I did not need a written notice. His tone had told me everything. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from my attorney, David Marlowe, in his cramped office above a used bookstore on East 4th Street. I had not planned to come here. My feet had carried me before my mind even caught up. I placed the sealed folder on his desk, the one I had kept hidden since the earliest days of Hallstrom, back when the company was nothing more than a rented basement and a desperate idea. David opened the folder, scanned the first 3 lines, and stopped breathing for half a second. His head lifted slowly. Althea, he said, voice low and steady. You kept this for 11 years sometimes, I replied, folding my hands to keep them from shaking. You prepare for a betrayal long before it arrives. And with that, the long-hidden truth I had tried not to need began to move toward the light, carrying everything that would come next. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revengeaita. Every tale carries its own message, its own heartbeat, and this one belongs solely to Althea's fight to reclaim what was taken from her. I joined Hallstrom Analytics when it was nothing more than 6 exhausted employees, 1 creaky server, and a rented basement that smelled like dust and old carpet glue. On my first day, the founder, Jonah Hallstrom, handed me a stack of mismatched binders and said, if we do not fix our compliance protocols this month, investors will walk. I remember answering, then we will fix them, even though I had no idea how I would pull it off. But I did. I stayed late, built frameworks from scratch, rewrote every policy they had scribbled on whiteboards, and learned that a company without structure behaves like a frightened animal, fast, unpredictable, and always one mistake away from collapse. During the first audit, when everything began to fall apart, Jonah pressed a trembling hand to his forehead. Althea, can you salvage this? I will, I told him, and I meant it. By morning, the crisis was contained, and Hallstrom had a future again. Months became years, investor chaos, acquisitions, and sudden leadership shifts swept through us. But I stayed. When my sister had emergency surgery, I worked from the hospital waiting room. When Charlotte lost power during a winter storm, I wrapped myself in a coat and finished a report by flashlight. When my doctor urged me to schedule my own procedure, I delayed it 3 times for the good of the company. People thanked me with hurried smiles and thin compliments. Promises of raises after the next quarter. Promotions postponed because your role is too essential to move right now. I believed them every time. I believed patience would turn into respect. That loyalty would eventually mean something. During one late-night meeting, Jonah clasped my shoulder. You are the backbone here, Althea. One day we will make that official. I nodded, letting myself imagine that future. It never came. 11 years passed, and the place I held together so tightly slowly loosened its grip on me, until one morning it let go completely. Clayton Reeves arrived at Hallstrom with the confidence of someone who believed success was a performance, not a responsibility. During his first town hall, he spoke about hypergrowth, market domination, and rewriting the industry's rules. The shift was immediate. What had once been a company built on restraint and integrity now revolved around speed, flash, and endless promises. At first, he treated me like a valuable relic from the early days. Althea, he said during his first week, you are the person everyone respects. I need you close. But the invitations to meetings began to thin. One afternoon, I approached his office door just as he stepped out. Clayton, I did not get the agenda for the risk review. His smile was smooth. "Oh, that one is smaller now. I handled it with the product team. I am the compliance lead," I reminded him. "Yes, which is why you should focus on stability, not the distractions," he replied, already walking away. The first numbers that did not make sense appeared a month later. Discrepancies that usually required days of investigation were suddenly gone. Client churn dropped to 0. Revenue climbed in impossible jumps, even though we had not added a single major contract. During a late evening in the analytics room, a junior analyst named Priya leaned toward me, voice barely above a whisper. "Someone is rewriting the metrics," she said. "I saw an edit timestamp that does not match any user in the department." "Show me," I said. She opened the file. And when I tried to access the audit trail, I received a message I had never seen before: permission denied. I tried again, slower, convinced it had to be a glitch. The same message appeared. Priya looked at me with quiet dread. "You were locked out, Althea. They locked out the one person who knows what the real numbers should be." I stood there with my hand still on the mouse, feeling the first hairline crack in something I thought could not break. The next morning, I attempted to open the audit trail module I had personally built during Hallstrom's early years. It had never failed, not once. Yet the screen displayed a message I had never designed: access revoked. I tried another module. The same message appeared. I walked straight to IT. "Evan," the lead tech, avoided my eyes as soon as he saw me. "Evan," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Why are my permissions blocked?" He tapped nervously on his keyboard. "It is part of the software migration, Althea, temporary. Clayton asked us to streamline roles. That is not how migrations work," I replied. "I know," he whispered. "But I was told this was above my level." Before I could press further, Clayton entered the room with the confident stride of a man who believed he owned every square foot he walked on. "Good news," he announced. "We are bringing in a consulting partner to optimize our data flow. Nova Metrics, cutting edge, fast." I asked, "Who are they?" He gave me a shallow smile. "They are specialists. You will meet them when necessary." No one met them. No one ever saw them. The name appeared only on internal memos and contract sheets. No website. No staff list. No corporate registration in North Carolina. That night, I returned to the office to finish a report. The building was silent. I logged in, opened the system log, and watched as a line of activity scrolled across the screen, time-stamped at an hour when no employee had been in the building. Unauthorized edits, hidden rewrites, new values replacing old ones in the blink of an eye. I leaned closer, pulse tight, and took screenshots of everything, acting on instinct, not strategy. Someone had found a way into Hallstrom's core data, someone who did not want me anywhere near it. By the start of the next week, the atmosphere around me had shifted into something I could not name but immediately recognized. HR called me in for a brief alignment discussion, a phrase that never meant anything good. The manager, a woman I barely knew, folded her hands neatly and said, "Althea, your role may not be fully aligned with the new direction the company is pursuing." "What direction is that?" I asked. She blinked as if the question itself was inconvenient. "It is still being defined. But leadership feels your current responsibilities are transitional." "Define transitional," I said. She glanced toward the door. "I am not authorized to elaborate." Later that afternoon, I discovered that a new hire, someone straight out of business school, name tag still shiny, had been assigned one of the core processes I had built myself. He approached me timidly. "Clayton said you would brief me," he murmured. "Brief you on what?" "On taking over the compliance workflow." I stared at him, seeing the embarrassment in his eyes. "You did nothing wrong," I said quietly. "You were handed someone else's work." I walked straight to Clayton's office. He was already smiling when I entered, as though he had been waiting to play a part he enjoyed. "Clayton, why was my workflow reassigned?" He leaned back. "Do not worry, Althea. Some people outgrow their usefulness. It happens in every company." The words landed like a slap delivered softly. Deliberately, I felt heat rise in my chest. "You are making a mistake," I said. He shrugged. "Mistakes are reversible. Stagnation is not." I left his office with my pulse ringing in my ears. By the time I reached my car, the truth settled over me with heavy clarity. I was not being sidelined. I was being erased, quietly and efficiently, by someone who needed me out of the way. David adjusted his glasses and pulled the folder closer. I watched his expression sharpen as he flipped through the first few pages, the same pages I had avoided reading for years because they carried a weight I was never sure I wanted to hold. This, he murmured, tapping the top sheet, is a co-founder contract. I was never listed publicly. I said. Jonah insisted anonymity would protect me from early investor backlash. David nodded slowly. Hallstrom was nothing back then. 6 people and 1 failing server, I added. I never imagined the paperwork would matter. He turned to the second document. The shift in his posture was immediate. This clause, he said, sliding the page toward me, grants you partial intellectual property rights to the compliance engine, the one Hallstrom built its reputation on, I answered quietly. I drafted the first version. Jonah said it was temporary. He said we would formalize ownership later. And then Clayton arrived. David said, and later disappeared. He picked up another page, one I had not seen in years. These are the revision logs from the internal archive. It looks like someone tried to delete your early contributions. I felt a faint tremor move up my arms. Clayton started rewriting history the moment Jonah stepped down. I whispered. David looked at me, the softness leaving his voice. If these documents hold up, Clayton did not just fire you. He stole from you. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The office was quiet except for the faint hum of the air vent, the kind of silence that follows a truth too large to grasp all at once. David closed the folder gently, as if the contents might shatter. Althea, this is not just leverage. This is ownership. I exhaled slowly, feeling the first outline of a path I had never intended to take begin to form in front of me. Fueled not by revenge alone, but by a truth Clayton never expected to face. David spread the documents across his desk, arranging them like pieces of a long-hidden puzzle, finally coming into view. We start by filing your intellectual property claim, he said. Once that is in motion, any attempt by Hallstrom to use or modify the compliance engine becomes legally questionable. I nodded. My hands were steady now, steadier than they had been in days. Next, he continued. We report the financial misrepresentation. State authorities take data manipulation seriously, especially when a company is preparing to go public. So Clayton's timeline collapses. I said. Collapses, David repeated, and burns. He pulled out a draft email. This goes to the board, anonymous, clean, direct. They will not know it is you. But they will know someone inside understands exactly what Clayton has been hiding. I read the lines simple, factual, pointed. Send it. I said. David leaned back. You realize every step we take is legal, and every step will hit him harder than the last. That is the point, I answered. He erased my access, my work, my history. Now the truth can erase his plans. While he prepared the filings, I stepped into the hallway to catch my breath. My phone buzzed with a new message, an unfamiliar number. Althea, they fired you to bury the data. I have something you need to see. I stared at the text. The sender's name appeared beneath it, Ethan. A former intern who had barely spoken during meetings and always kept to the edges of the room, unnoticed by most people, including Clayton. Another message arrived a moment later. I saved a recording from the night he ordered the alterations. I did not know who else to trust. I felt a slow, controlled surge of heat rise in my chest. Not anger, not fear. Validation. The first outside confirmation of what Clayton had tried to hide. Ethan arrived at David's office with the nervous energy of someone who had rehearsed the moment in his head, but never believed he would go through with it. He sat down, opened his laptop, and pressed play. Clayton's voice filled the room, calm, deliberate, unmistakably his. I do not care what the numbers actually are, he said in the recording. Rewrite them. By morning. They need to show growth. Nova Metrics will cover the back end. A second voice hesitated, but compliance will not see it. Clayton cut in. Althea's access is already being handled. Ethan closed the laptop, hands trembling. I saved it the night it happened, he said quietly. I knew someone would get hurt, but I did not think it would be you. You did the right thing, I told him. He nodded once, relief fighting fear in his expression. David wasted no time. The folder, the co-founder contract, the intellectual property clause, the archive deletion logs, and the recording, all of it was packaged and sent to Hallstrom's board and the state regulators. No introduction, no commentary, just truth delivered with surgical precision. 2 hours later, David's phone lit up with a message from a board liaison. Emergency session convened. Clayton ordered to appear immediately. By early afternoon, word filtered back through quiet channels. Clayton had tried to keep his composure as the board questioned him. He blamed Novometrics. He blamed miscommunication. He blamed technical noise. The chairwoman interrupted him mid-sentence. We checked. Novometrics exists only on paper. No staff, no operations, no filings. Silence followed, sharp and heavy. Then someone pushed the folder across the table toward him. The same folder he had tried to erase from Hallstrom's history. In that instant, Clayton understood he had never deleted the one thing that could destroy him. Althea. The fallout moved faster than I expected. By mid-morning the next day, David received confirmation that the board had voted unanimously to suspend Clayton pending a full internal review. The suspension was immediate and public. No quiet exit, no graceful statement, just a single line delivered to every employee inbox. By noon, regulators announced a formal inquiry into Hallstrom's reporting practices. David read the notice aloud. They are not treating this as a clerical issue, he said. They are treating it as intentional manipulation. I let the words settle. I had known the truth for weeks, but hearing it spoken by authorities gave it a weight that even I had not anticipated. An hour later, the first investor email leaked across internal channels. The largest early-stage fund had withdrawn completely. Without them, Hallstrom's planned initial public offering froze in place, its valuation evaporating in the space of a single afternoon. Clayton tried to enter the building around 3 o'clock. A former colleague sent me a text describing what happened. He looked calm at first, she wrote. Then he scanned his badge and the reader flashed red. Marcus, the same guard who had watched me struggle at the door the morning they fired me, stepped forward. Your access has been disabled. Mr. Reeves, he told him. Clayton's voice sharpened. There must be a mistake. An HR representative approached, holding a sealed envelope. There is no mistake. You are not authorized to enter the premises. The identical sentence he had once used as a weapon against me now echoed back at him, delivered with the same emptiness he had perfected over the years. He stood outside the building, badge in hand, stunned into silence. The same door that had rejected me now rejected him. And for the first time since this began, the imbalance between us leveled not with triumph, but with finality. Hallstrom reached out 2 weeks after Clayton's suspension, asking whether I intended to return in any capacity. I read the email twice, then deleted it. I had spent 11 years building a place that never belonged to me, and I was done lending my life to anyone else's ambition. David arranged a meeting with their legal team. They came prepared with polished smiles and softened tones, but the document they handed over mattered more than any apology they attempted. This settlement grants you full ownership of the audit integrity engine, one attorney said. I ran my fingers along the signature line. I wrote the framework. I replied. It is only right the framework comes home. I signed without hesitation. With the settlement finalized, I realized I wanted something different from revenge or victory. I wanted impact, the kind that protected people who never had a voice when their careers were taken from them. So I rented a modest office space in Charlotte and filed paperwork to launch a nonprofit dedicated to supporting workers who had been wrongfully dismissed during corporate restructuring. It felt strange at first, stepping into a space where I was not fighting to be heard. I was shaping something entirely my own. On the nonprofit's first morning, a small envelope arrived in the mailroom, no name, no return address. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a handwritten note that said only, "For the people who refuse to be erased." I stood there holding the note, letting its weight settle into me. Clayton's downfall was never the victory. This building something that lifted others instead of being consumed by the machinery of corporate ambition was the life I had been owed all along. And if there is a lesson I carried from those 11 years, it is this. The moment you stop waiting to be valued by others is the moment you begin to build a future worthy of your strength.